First, the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, is standing by. He joins us live. Governor, welcome. Thank you very much for being on. We want to ask you what's happening on the front lines in New York State and New York City. But first, this council that you have put together, what do you hope, what void do you hope it will fill that perhaps some states aren't getting from Washington? What do you think you and the other governors will be able to do to help Americans get through this?
Thank you, Mika. Look, your comments have been exactly right. This wasn't a bending of the Constitution, what the president said last night. It was a breaking of the Constitution. He basically declared himself King Trump, right? And all that annoying federal state back and forth that our founding fathers went through, he just disregarded that and said total authority. Then we would have had King George Washington, right? But look, the governors are in charge because the president put them in charge. This is a total 180 from where the president started. When this started, he could have closed down the economy. He didn't want to. So he left it to the governors. And I have had to do this, and I'm in this position because the federal government, frankly, didn't want to be in this position. So now the states are doing it. Now you get to the next phase, which is going to be the reopening. I understand the president wants to do it quickly. I understand the political environment. I get it. But I also know that if we do this wrong, you will see the number of infections increase dramatically. What you're seeing in that infection rate is a direct consequence of our actions. And we reopen too fast, you will see those numbers go up, and we'll go right back to square one.
Governor Cuomo, Willie Geist, good to see you this morning. As you say, the president has politics to think about. He wants to open the economy, to use his terms. You have the reality of data. You have the reality of what's happening in your state. There could come a scenario, though, where the president gets up in that podium one of these days and says, I am declaring the economy back open. He'll be talking to you and other governors. What will you say back to him in that scenario?
Yeah, Willie, the only way this situation gets worse is if the president creates a constitutional crisis. If he says to me, I declare it open, and that is a public health risk, or it's reckless with the welfare of the people of my state, I will oppose it. And then we will have a constitutional crisis like you haven't seen in decades, where states tell the federal government, we're not going to follow your order. It would be terrible for this country. It would be terrible for this president. So I just hope he gets control of what he was saying last night and he doesn't go down that road. Again, Willie, what he was saying last night was the exact opposite of what he has done to date. I would have welcomed more federal assistance from the federal government. I believe in the federal government. You remember I was the HUD secretary. I worked with FEMA. I never saw FEMA take the position that this president said, we're not a shipping clerk for the states. Yes, you are. You're FEMA. Your job is to handle a federal emergency. You declared a federal emergency, and then you stepped back and said, OK, I declare a federal emergency. The states are in charge. I've never seen that before, but that's what they did. This is now an absurd 180 the other way, where he says, I know I put the governors in charge. I know I didn't step in, but now I have total authority. And by the way, he's not answering any of the substantive points. How do we do this reopening? Where are the funds? You didn't provide any funds to the state governments. Where's the testing? I can't do this testing. No state has the capacity to do the testing we need to do. That's a real substantive challenge. Let the federal government handle that.
And even yesterday, the president trying to have it both ways, saying my authority is total, but it's the state's fault that they didn't have ventilators, that they don't have personal protective equipment for their hospitals. You said yesterday at your briefing, Governor, quote, the worst is over. That's been the screaming headline on the back of the New York Post and picked up a lot of places. But there's an important second clause, actually, to what you said. The worst is over if we continue to be smart. So what did you mean by that message? I know the hospitalizations are down, and that's great news. But continuing to be smart means what from where you sit?
No, you're exactly right, Willie. The caveat swallows the premise. The worst is over. if we continue to do what we're doing. The important thing to remember here is why were all the projections wrong? The president's projection, Peter Navarro's projection, CDC's projection, White House Coronavirus Task Force projection, and then the Gates model, Columbia model, Cornell model. They were all wrong because, and it's good news, because we changed the trajectory of the virus. And we've proven something. When I say the worst is over, we've proven that the virus is not unstoppable, right? There was a fear when we started that maybe you can't stop this beast. Maybe it'll come in under the doors. We proved you can stop the beast. And that should be vindicating in some ways. But we stopped the beast by our action. And that's why we reduced the curve and the infection rate. It's all subject to what we do. If we go out there today and we start to see more people on the street, that infection rate will go up, I guarantee you, in 3 days. It's a direct consequence of our actions.
It's about what we do and also what leaders tell us to do. The president was asked a lot in his briefing yesterday about what he did in February, because he was so emphatic that in January nobody had died yet. In February 10th, he says by April, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. And then on February 23rd, we have it very much under control in this country. February 24th, it's under control. February 27th, one day it'll be like a miracle. It will disappear. It was 2 hours long. Did you have a chance, Governor, to see the president's briefing? Would there be value for a governor to watch that?
No, a governor should not watch that. There's no value in it. It is infuriating and offensive and frankly ignorant of the facts. You know, the president stood up and said, forget the Constitution of the United States. Forget the concept of federalism. To hear a Republican stand up there, by the way, and argue big government and total authority of the federal government is somewhat amusing. You know, if it wasn't so serious, it would be funny, all of this. It could be a comedy skit. But it is, and it's frightening. It's frightening. This is the last place we should be. This crazy politics, this absurd positioning, when we're talking about life and death. And we really have the toughest governmental problem we've ever faced right in front of us, and we have to deal with this absurdity.
So I know you have to go, but just can you characterize how things are going on the front lines in New York City?
Look, the numbers have flattened. I take some peace in that because nobody knew that we could actually do this. We could have taken all these initiatives and made all these steps, and you could have still seen that virus number go up, and that would have been a really frightening place. So the flattening is good. That we didn't overwhelm the hospital system is good. The number of deaths is still painfully high, but hopefully the deaths will follow the flattening of the hospitalization curve. And then the reopening has to be planned and be smart and controlled. And don't let the expectations get ahead of the reality, because then people will react to the expectations. And we don't want to have a reversal of our progress. But look, it is looking better. We did flatten the curve. We can control our future. And in a society that desperately needs control and some feeling that this is going to be okay, I think we have reason to believe that.
All right, Governor Andrew Cuomo, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for your leadership in this extraordinary crisis. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.